大家买国产车还是要注意的。你看这款吉利新锐，
When it comes to buying a Chinese-made car, you really need to think twice. Take my Geely Xinrui for example. I've driven it for 43,000 kilometers, and the engine keeps triggering warning lights. This year alone, I've already taken it for repairs 3 times. The 4S dealership said it might be a problem with the fuel system, and even the ignition system broke once. There are just too many issues. Every time I go to Geely's service center, it's a complete mess. There's so many cars waiting to be fixed. There's no space to even park. Honestly, the staff there are very polite and helpful, but they just can't fix a car properly, and it makes me feel awkward. Today, there were too many vehicles, and the shop wouldn't even accept mine. They told me to go to another garage across the street. That's why I'm telling you, be cautious when buying a domestic car. Just look at how many people are lined up for repairs, and there's not enough staff. With no repair slots available, I had no choice but to go somewhere else. It's such a headache.
兄弟们，你们要的吉利银河 L6
Guys, the Geely Galaxy L that you've been asking about, I finally got my hands on one today. Let's take a close look at how this car is actually built. This one got into an accident in the front, so you can see what's inside. Check out this bumper reinforcement beam. It's just a thin layer of metal. Some Japanese brands made in China even include a layer of foam inside, but this one, nothing. Not even foam. Honestly, this car just can't compete with joint venture models. Even the cheapest foreign brands come with pedestrian safety features to prevent people from getting dragged under. Geely hypes up their cars like crazy, but once you take them apart, it's all disappointing. It's clear they've turned cutting costs into an art form.
Geely Auto, formed in 1997, was the first privately owned car manufacturer in China. It went public on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange in 2004. In 2010, Geely made headlines by fully acquiring Volvo Cars through a major deal. Since then, it has also taken stakes in Mercedes-Benz Group and AB Volvo, building a global brand portfolio. Today, Geely is considered the most internationally oriented Chinese private car maker. That Volvo deal was a turning point that launched Geely into rapid growth. Behind the scenes, the acquisition had strong backing from the Chinese government, especially from the then Vice President Xi Jinping. But by May this year, Volvo began laying off a large number of employees in China. The cuts affected key departments like engineering and supply chain. In the first quarter of 2025, Volvo's global operating profit dropped sharply, down more than 70% year-on-year to just 1.9 billion Swedish krona. Currently, Volvo employs about 43,500 people worldwide. The planned layoffs affect around 3,000 positions, or roughly 7% of the workforce. In China, the impact varies by department, ranging from 10% to as high as 70%. The hardest hit has been the R&D department, especially at Volvo's Jiading Tech Center in Shanghai, which is the company's main research hub in China. On the sales front, Volvo has also struggled in China. In 2024, their total sales in the Chinese market dropped to 156,400 vehicles, an 8% decline from the previous year, and the lowest in the past 5 years. In the first quarter of 2025, sales slipped further to just 33,300 vehicles, down 12% year-on-year. That's a sharper drop than the global average of 8%. As a representative of second-tier luxury cars in Northern Europe, Volvo was once renowned worldwide for its safety and environmental credentials. However, its recent sales slump in the Chinese market indicates a serious challenge to its future profitability and market share. In fact, the potential financial crisis for the company has already started to show signs. Before Geely fully acquired Volvo Cars, the Chinese automotive industry, especially car manufacturing, was dominated by state-owned and joint venture companies. For joint ventures, the Chinese side typically held a 51% stake, a model that had become an accepted standard by the government at that time. Under China's current communist regime, private enterprises have always been secondary, especially in capital and technology-intensive industries like car manufacturing. However, Geely, as China's first privately owned car manufacturer, was able to gain full support from the Chinese government when it acquired Volvo, making this acquisition quite exceptional. The main reasons likely include: Number 1. At the time, despite the establishment of several joint ventures, mainly with state-owned enterprises, such as SAIC General Motors in Shanghai, FAW Volkswagen in Changchun, and Dongfeng Citroën in Wuhan, most operations focused on domestic low-end manufacturing and assembly. Core technologies like vehicle design, ABS, and automatic transmissions were still controlled by foreign companies. While the Chinese automotive industry had long been seeking technological breakthroughs, having state-owned enterprises involved would have been too overt and ambitious. Geely's involvement as a private company offered a much subtler, perhaps deceptive approach. Number 2. Due to the capital and technology-intensive nature of car manufacturing, the industry was once seen as a forbidden zone for private enterprises in China. Geely founder Li Shufu, as a later entrant into this field, lacked competitive advantages in areas such as funding, technology, branding, and traditional manufacturing. For him to improve, acquiring Volvo was the best choice, as it helped fill the gaps in these areas and positioned Geely at the forefront of Chinese car makers. Additionally, through joint ventures, private enterprises could not only benefit from the Chinese government's favorable policies, but also gain extra protection in the business environment. 3. Private enterprises, especially large ones, have always faced survival threats in China unless they are under the protection of the powerful Chinese Communist Party. Li Shufu, the head of Geely Group, surely understood this. As a businessman, he had to be savvy in managing relationships. Not only did he maintain good relations with the local CCP officials, but he also had ties with General Secretary Xi Jinping, the highest-ranking member of the CCP. A related report from the New York Times, published on January 24, 2011, noted that Xi Jinping had visited Geely in 2002, when he was the Communist Party secretary of Zhejiang province. At the time, Xi remarked, "If we don't strongly support companies like Geely, who else should we support?" In reality, Li Shufu's company received support from the Chinese state-owned funds from the very beginning. Later, when the Chinese government significantly tightened its policy on overseas acquisitions, Geely went against the trend. Not only did it acquire Volvo Cars for $1.8 billion, but it also secured $9.2 billion in financing, with backing from state-owned financial institutions. Furthermore, Geely invested in the famous German carmaker Daimler Group, becoming one of its largest shareholders. Chinese state media also provided extensive positive coverage of Li Shufu's actions. Some Chinese netizens noticed that Li Shufu's wife shares the same name as Xi Jinping's sister-in-law, Peng Lijuan. This led many to believe that Li Shufu's strong support was due to family connections. While the authenticity of such rumors is hard to verify, various signs suggest that the relationship between Xi Jinping and Li Shufu is more than just professional. In 2010, the signing ceremony for Geely's acquisition of Volvo took place during Xi Jinping's visit to Sweden. At the time, he was vice president. However, Xi did not attend the ceremony, as many had expected. The Hong Kong newspaper Mingpao commented that Xi's absence was to avoid any appearance of conflict of interest. In 2014, during his visit to Belgium, Xi made a special trip to visit Geely-owned Volvo's factory in the area, with Li Shufu accompanying him. In 2015, when Xi visited the UK, he also toured the new generation of London taxis, a product of the British company acquired by Li Shufu. As a privately owned enterprise, Geely's acquisition of Volvo received full support from the Chinese government. But what did the government gain in return? On a macro level, for foreign acquisitions or investments by Chinese companies, the Chinese government has developed a set of strategies to handle them. These strategies can be summarized as nurture, trap, and kill. The Chinese government uses different approaches in these 3 stages to deal with foreign businesses. In the nurture stage, the government allows foreign enterprises to make profits in China, but encourages technology transfer, local collaboration, and vertical integration through policy designs. This aims to achieve the goals of using foreign companies to boost domestic industries and using external support to drive internal growth. In the trap stage, the government lures foreign companies into the market through various incentives, like tax cuts, land subsidies, market access, and easier financing. In the kill stage, the government begins to strengthen support for domestic companies. It offers subsidies, regulatory restrictions, and market-driven policies to gradually limit the development space for foreign businesses, ensuring that Chinese brands dominate key strategic industries. Tesla's factory in Shanghai is the latest example of the nurture, trap, and kill strategy being applied in the automotive industry. In 2019, when Tesla began building its first overseas gigafactory in Shanghai, the Chinese government rolled out the red carpet, offering favorable conditions like a $1.4 billion low-interest loan. The media praised the move, claiming it would ignite China's electric vehicle industry. However, just 6 years later, Tesla's market share in China's EV sector has dropped from 20% in 2020 to just 12% in 2024. By May 2025, Tesla's sales of locally produced EVs in China had decreased by 15% compared to the previous year, marking an 8th consecutive month of decline. This shift reflects Chinese consumers' preference for cheaper domestic brands like BYD and Geely. Tesla's struggle is a result of the Chinese government's nurture, trap, kill strategy. First, attract foreign companies to set up factories with cheap production and a fast market, like Tesla's Shanghai Gigafactory. Then, through joint ventures, technology transfers, and even espionage, key technologies are passed on to Chinese companies, like battery supplier CATL and EV maker BYD. Finally, using policy support and low-cost advantages, China pushes foreign companies out of the market, while simultaneously expanding its own global market share. The nurture, trap, kill strategy aims to support domestic companies, allowing them to continuously take market share from foreign firms, both in China and globally. It has also led to the weakening of the competitive edge of industry leaders like Tesla. Tesla's downturn reflects a shift in Chinese consumers' preferences toward domestic brands, which, though of rougher quality, offer much cheaper prices. Looking back, local companies like Geely and BYD are direct beneficiaries of the Chinese government's long-term nurture, trap, kill strategy. Geely strengthened its product research and manufacturing capabilities by acquiring Volvo Cars and setting up a joint R&D center in Sweden. This move was especially impactful in the fields of EVs, intelligent systems, and platform development. The China-Europe Vehicle Technology Center, CEVT, jointly established by Geely and Volvo in Gothenburg, Sweden, is the core platform for their technological cooperation. Their R&D achievements include modular platforms, electrification, and intelligent technology, all of which provide Geely with core competitiveness in EVs. CEVT's modular platforms include compact modular architecture, used for medium-sized vehicles supporting models like Lynk & Co. 01 through 08, Geely Galaxy L7, Zeekr X, and Proton E Mass 7. Scalable product architecture 2, used for high-end models like the Volvo EX90 and Zeekr 001, compatible with both pure electric and hybrid systems, and supporting 800-volt architecture. By 2025, CEVT has filed over 3,000 patents covering platform design, battery integration, and electronic control systems. CEVT's CMA and SPA2 platforms have helped Geely, Zeekr, and Lynk & Co. save about 30% on R&D costs, while shortening the development cycle of each model to 18 to 24 months, compared to the industry average of 36 months. For example, the R&D cost for the Geely Galaxy E5, based on the CMA platform, was reduced by around 500 million RMB. With CEVT's patent licenses, Geely has been able to quickly launch high-cost performance EVs, directly squeezing Tesla's market share in China. Tesla's Model 3 and Model Y prices can't compete with the Geely Galaxy or Zeekr models, causing Tesla's market share to drop from 15 to 20% in 2020 to just 7 to 10% this year. The patent licenses also allowed Geely to bypass developing its own battery management and intelligent driving technology, instead using CEVT's results. By 2025, Geely is expected to save more than 2 billion RMB in research and development costs. Additionally, Geely has used CEVT's modular platforms to develop alternative models like Zeekr and Lynk & Co., further pushing down Volvo's market share in China. Volvo's sales in China were only 156,400 units in 2024, an 8% year-on-year decline. In the first quarter of this year, the decline was even steeper, dropping by 12%. This is the true reason behind Volvo's continued sales collapse in China. The layoffs at Volvo China are likely just the beginning. The latest statistics show that in 2024, Geely Holding Group's global sales exceeded 3.33 million vehicles, with Geely Auto, including Geely, Galaxy, Lynk & Co., and Zeekr, reaching over 2.1 million units, a 32% year-on-year increase. The sales of EVs reached 888,200 units, growing by 92%. In the first half of 2025, Geely's vehicle sales reached 956,000 units, a 41% year-on-year increase, with EVs accounting for over 320,000 units, or 33.5% of total sales. In 2024, Geely Auto's revenue 240 billion RMB, about $35 billion, a 34% year-on-year increase. In the first quarter of 2025, revenue was 72.5 billion RMB, up 25% year-on-year. In 2024, Geely Auto's exports reached 270,000 units, a 70% year-on-year increase. From January to April 2025, exports of EVs reached 642,000 units, a 52.6% year-on-year increase. The Chinese government's nurture, trap, kill strategy is becoming a reality. However, reducing costs cannot be at the expense of products' quality and performance. It is neither limitless nor all-powerful. Behind these impressive statistics, there lies another, more troubling reality.
这两天有个新闻啊，就是这个吉利要退出俄罗斯市场。
There's been a news story lately about Geely pulling out of the Russian market. Pulling out of the Russian market. This feels like it goes against the current trend of Chinese companies expanding abroad. But honestly, I think this has been brewing for quite some time.
中国汽车今年出口俄罗斯腰斩49%。
This year, China's car exports to Russia dropped by 49% compared to last year, ending the rapid growth seen in previous years. Since 2021, Chinese car exports to Russia grew 20 times over the course of 4 years. Except for the Russian domestic brand Lada, the top 10 best-selling car brands in Russia were all Chinese: Haval, Chery, Geely, Chang'an, and others leading the charge. For the past few years, Chinese car makers have been raking in profits in the Russian market. However, the market has now become saturated, and Chinese car exports to Russia have started to decline. The main reasons include the Russian government tightening its import and export policies for Chinese cars, such as imposing a 55% tariff on car parts and other hardware, fierce competition among Chinese car makers in Russia, and quality and reputation issues among Russian consumers regarding Chinese cars. For example, during Russia's harsh winter, 24% of consumers complained that the paint on Chinese cars was too thin, lacked corrosion resistance, and didn't compare to European vehicles. Some cars even showed clear rust after just 2 years of use, reflecting cost-cutting measures or issues with the cars adapting to local conditions. These factors have damaged the image of Chinese cars in Russia.
Apart from Russia, both the United States and the European Union have also implemented countermeasures. The US has raised the import tariff on Chinese electric vehicles from 25% to 100%, effective September 27, 2024. This applies to both whole vehicles and certain parts like lithium batteries. This move is based on Section 301 of the 1974 Trade Act and aims to curb China's unfair trade practices. The European Union has officially approved a countervailing duty of up to 45.3% on Chinese electric vehicles, including a 10% standard import tariff effective October 2024. These tariffs are set at different rates for various Chinese manufacturers: 17% for BYD, 18.8% for Geely, 35.3% for SAIC, and 7.8% for Chinese-built Tesla. It is likely that more countries will adopt these kinds of countermeasures in the near future.